Welcome to No Such Thing as Normal podcast with Natalie Hayes and Jess McKeown.
This is a casual podcast where we talk about all the things we're not supposed to talk about in order to help you normalize your real life, because really we're all just a bunch of weirdos having a completely human experience in a society that asks us to pretend like we're not.
And I'm your host, Jess, a gifted spirit baby medium who facilitates deep soul healing by channeling divine messages.
I'm your other host, Natalie, and I am a trauma-informed, intuitive mindset and manifestation coach.
Yes, be sure to download where you listen to podcasts and subscribe. Watch our 100% unedited episodes on YouTube. And you can also follow us on the gram at No Such Thing as Normal Pod for more weirdo and woo-woo content.
And if you like this episode, please be sure to rate and review us so that more people can hear us and unleash their weird with you.
And if you don't like it, you're probably creating that reality.
We don't want to know.
I know. We don't want to know. We do want to know.
I'd like to know.
Tell us, because I think Natalie and I are both here to learn from our mistakes and, our non-mistakes. What's the opposite of mistakes? Doing it right.
Successes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tell us what you think we did good too.
Successes. I'm like, what's the opposite of mistakes? Yeah, because we are just a BB podcast and we have like so many things we want to talk about. But today we want to talk about creating your reality because we heard some interesting feedback from some people about this, and we've definitely talked about creating our reality in our redesigning pregnancy group, right, and changing timelines. And so we just wanted to crack this open because this seems to be like a big thing for people to digest. So let's break it down, right? How do you eat an elephant, Natalie?
What? I don't know.
How do you eat an elephant?
Yes, I don't know.
Bite by bite.
That's so sad. I
Isn't that
feel
a
like
gross thing?
Yeah, we need no.
How do you eat a giant pizza?
There, that's better. Okay.
Well, it has to be like as big as an elephant. It has to seem like impossible.
Pizza's more palatable.
Okay. How do you eat a giant pizza, everybody?
Bite. There we go. Okay. So Jess, poor elephant. Yeah. What does creating your reality, like, what does that mean to you?
For me, it was like getting the reins of my life, right? And for a long time, I thought, this stuff is happening to me. Why is this happening? OMG, all this good stuff, all this bad stuff. I felt like I didn't have any control over it. So especially when the bad stuff came, I really couldn't understand it. And then as I worked on my spiritual journey, one of the concepts that spirit gave me was like literally these reins, like in a, on a horse. And they're like, you're in charge. Like it's the chariot card in tarot, if that helps. Like you direct where you want to go. You say what you want to happen. You experience this. And that was life-changing for me and also heavily crippling. I was like, what?
What have I done?
Possible? And so, I sat with that for a long time and was like, no, I'm not. And I tried to find the little points of blame and whatever, and that didn't work. And so now I kind of take this concept of what I want to experience is what is happening in my thoughts, right? What's happening in my subconscious, what's happening in my vibration. Everything is a reflection of that. It's an attraction of that. And so I really, creating your reality is what you think is what I would say. It starts maybe there, your thoughts, because everything started as a thought before it came into form. So if you think things a certain way and you view things a certain way without getting into that spiritual bypassing, which we can kind of touch on, right? You want to be realistic because it's called reality, but it's really just, what you're thinking, vibrating, envisioning. That's what I would say creating your reality means, and being in control of your life and your choices with full responsibility and full accountability. And let me tell you, that is a fun horse to ride.
It is.
What do you think creating your reality means? Like really means?
I agree with everything that you said. I think it's definitely like vibrationally what you're holding.
Next question.
Next. This is something that was really, I think, both the most challenging thing for me to digest, as well as the most pivotal thing, like for me to digest in my own intuitive journey and just like as a human. And I didn't really get it until I did all of these Psych K workshops, becoming a Psych K facilitator. And if you're just joining us and you don't know what that is, there's a bunch of information on my website, intuitivelynatalie.com, and you can read about it. But to be quite honest, it's difficult to explain. You just kind of have to experience it. But it's all about working with your subconscious mind. And I didn't realize like how powerful your programming is in your subconscious mind. And so I think when you say creating your reality, people are like, oh, well, I want to win $1 million. So I'm just going to sit and visualize winning $1 million and then it's going to happen. And like, maybe, but you could have some limiting conditioning in your subconscious mind that you're not like consciously aware of that is creating your reality to not align with that. So you really have to kind of address like, well, what are my money fears? Like, what is the relationship I saw with money growing up? Like, because your subconscious mind is almost fully formed by the age of 7, a lot of that conditioning you're operating from in your adult life, and that conditioning is creating your reality. And it can butt heads with like your conscious attempts at manifestation.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I love that you said that it happens, to the age of 7. And it's like, it's almost like, it's a little bit like that hardwired, right? It's a little bit of that like deep programming. And so when I work with clients and you're in your 30s, we got to go boop, 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 all the way back down to 6 or 7. And if you haven't done any clearing of any of those things or any awareness, it might take some time to kind of adjust and see that and like have it come into clarity. And I think sometimes the daunting part of this is that it feels like it's so deep and so long, and there's so many things sort of like affecting our reality, but we have so many great healing modalities to like work on them. And Psych K, I totally agree, you have to experience it. Like when I read your website, I was like, so what is this magic? And how does it happen? Like, it was sort of like, basically it was like, it's going to be magic, just trust me. But it's true. It's like you get in and I'll tell from my experience, like, you're called to like feel a certain emotion about something, and for me, it like wells up in me and then I like cry and release. And it's like this instantaneous, like fast, my guys are saying like a flush of the toilet, but it's like, then it kind of flushes out of your system. And then Natalie, you're like, okay, you're going to like still be in those situations, but you won't be triggered by them. And I was like, let's see about that. And so I'd be in situations, I'm like, oh, I'm not triggered anymore. And like, it's still intense, maybe if it's an intense situation, but you're not like spun into the spiral. And then you have that space to be like, oh, I can like go take a break or take a breath or, say something or take care of myself. And it's much more easier than to shift your reality when that person is happening. And you have a really good story about that, right? Like the chopping the vegetables.
The zucchinis. Yeah, the zucchini story. So the way that I feel like Psych K really works, or if you're doing shadow work, which that's also what subconscious mind work is called, is like your limiting programming is your shadows. It's the things you don't like about yourself. It's the stuff that you project onto other people, or the things that you judge other people for. Those are all shadow aspects of self that you haven't like integrated or accepted yet. And that's totally fine. But after I started doing this Psych K work, I went to go stay with a friend, and we were getting dinner together in the kitchen, like chopping zucchinis. I'll never forget. Giant zucchini. And so I was chopping the vegetables, and my friend was micromanaging the shit out of me from behind me. And like, I had got kind of used to that. Like, people had just done that to me my whole life, like micromanaged the stuff that I was doing. And, I'd get frustrated and walk away. But this time I was like, knowing what I know, I'm obviously creating this for some reason, creating this scenario. Like, why am I calling this in? So I excused myself and I went to the bathroom, and I was like, okay, how is this making me feel? Okay, well, it's making me feel like I'm not doing it good enough. And so I shifted the belief that like everything I do is more than good enough. Walked out of the bathroom, went back to the kitchen. They left me alone.
I mean,
it's like, it was immediate. And of course it's immediate. And it was just so wild to see my own shift then mirrored in someone else, because it's like, once you address that root cause, once you acknowledge it, once you integrate it, like, oh, okay, I realized my whole life I have been feeling like I don't do things good enough. Okay, I shifted it. It like immediately stops attracting it. And I feel like the best way to see the shifts that you've made is in other people around you.
Yeah.
They reflect
Yeah.
it back to you without even being like consciously aware.
I mean, that's so wild. And I also think that 50% of healing happens in the bathroom. Like, how much healing have we all done? Did you just spill your coffee or your matcha? I mean, like, so much healing happens in the bathroom. It's like a sacred place, I feel like. But it's true. You can like go into the bathroom, do some work, ground yourself, get a breath, and then come back out and like make different choices. And I think the thing with the subconscious also, I love that you said it's about, the shadow work. And I also add to that mix like hidden gifts and talents, right?
Mhm.
So if somebody is doing something that you really want to do and you find yourself being judgmental or critical, and you're like, why am I like that? You probably have that gift too, or want to open up to your gifts. And a lot of times we tuck things in the shadow from past lives that we're like afraid of or that harmed us. Like there's a bunch of witches out there. I mean, every day in sessions, I'm like, and you're a witch and you're a witch. And that's why you don't like fire, like all
That's
these.
you.
And so it's just like this feeling of like, there's so many things that we have tucked in our shadows, not all bad. And so I want to say that just because, I like saw shadow work, like, when you like do a lap at a party and you're like,
Mhm.
oh, who's here? And like, I was like, oh, shadow work. I'm not going to go talk to her, let me go talk to like love and joy and, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
feel
Or
good.
like shadow work's like in the corner and she's like, picking out music or something, I'm sure. And, when I went over there, I was like, hey, shadow work. And she's like, oh, hey. And she's like, let me show you all this stuff. And, doing that, I think you really need a person that can walk you through that and hold
Mhm.
your hand and make sure you're going to feel safe and guided, which I feel like you do, Natalie.
Oh,
But it's just also like, just, there could be good things in there too.
oh, there's so much. And like the shadows, like are good things. Those are
Yeah.
things that you came here to address. I think
Yeah.
also one of the things I realized recently is
Yeah.
that it's not like life, you're not here to like become a millionaire, have 3 yachts and 4 houses. Like that's not the goal. Like that's not the peak. Like your life is about addressing these things. It's about the journey. Like it really is about the journey. It's not about the destination. And the journey is actively creating your reality.
Yeah. To advance your soul, learn things,
That's why you're here.
repay karma, like all these things. Like a lot of things, like now I kind of, when I run into things, I'm like, I go to my guides. Is this a karmic relationship that I need to deal with? Is this a subconscious belief? Is this a past life thing? Like you kind of go through the checklist of like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Because it's not just this reality, everybody. What?
Right.
It's all your other realities. It's all your current realities that are existing within this, broader spectrum of like today or now,
Mhm.
and then all your past lives and all your future lives. Right? It's a whole continuum. No end, no beginning. Because our next thing we have to talk about is probably that there's no time. Right? That'll be for another
Right.
episode. But like within this reality space, like there's so many realities. How do we manage all these realities, Natalie?
Oh, I'm not real sure, Jess. I feel like
Oh,
it's a daily process. I like
yeah.
to operate off the belief that like the future doesn't exist because I mean technically it doesn't. You're never living in the future. You're always living in the present. So creating your reality, like look at
Oh.
your present, look what's going on right now. Like yes, your reality is the good, the feel goods, the
Mhm.
new loves, the relationships, the like abundance that you receive, the gifts. Like yes, all of the feel goods are your reality, but also the not so fun stuff. And I feel like it's a tough pill to swallow for people to
Yeah.
realize that they're also calling those things in because like you wouldn't be experiencing it if you couldn't handle it and
Yeah.
if you weren't supposed to. Like addiction. My brother struggled with addiction.
Yeah.
Addiction is a glorified coping mechanism.
Mhm.
And that might trigger some people to know.
Yeah.
But also like the trauma you experienced in your life. I was molested as a child.
Mm.
Is it okay to molest children? Not really, but I obviously experienced it like for a reason, like
Yeah.
I went through these things on purpose.
Mhm.
These things that happen in your life are stuff that your soul is contracted to go through so that you can like learn and evolve and grow and process it.
Yeah. Now, what happens to the people who just can't, right? Because I see that a lot in sessions. I will talk to people's parents and grandparents, and you see how they just couldn't process the trauma and they passed it on. Would we say that's also part of the experience, part of the reality for them to maybe not quite fully process that, not get to that full point? Because sometimes it kind of feels like, you know, in life, it's like achiever mode and doing all the things and learning all the lessons. And like, not everybody does that, right? Not every, you know, people who you're like, oh girl, you are not doing your work. You know, like they're just like, da, 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 like going through life. And you're just like, ooh, that's going to end bad. But like, hello, judgment. But like, you know, you just see that and you're just like, what is going on there? And I also had to realize that like, that is their reality and that is their experience, and they absolutely need to experience that. But I think people have a problem when like somebody's like whacked out experience like crosses over and affects somebody else's experience, right? You know, and like they don't quite understand that like that also has been invited in and called in. And the way I kind of see it, like I just see it like a bunch of cords and ribbons and everything's kind of intertwined, and so we're kind of all tugging and pulling at different energies because we want to have these experiences. And I think it's hard for people to think like, why would I want to have an abusive father, or why would I want to have you know, this type of mother or this type of brother or whatever. And it's kind of like you can spend all day figuring out why, or you can take what that has given you and crack it open and make an omelet with it. Maybe because I'm hungry. I think about breakfast, but it's like what you do with it. Always. It's always like, what do you do with this? How do you learn from this? How do you grow from this? It's here in front of you.
And it's twofold. Like it's about you and it's also about them. Like if you have an abusive father, like you have some kind of a contract to go through that experience together.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard because we're so conditioned to put things in boxes as like good or bad. But good and bad are just conditioning. Judgment is just conditioning. Like the universe lives in neutrality.
It does.
It's neutral. We assign things as good and bad, which is like, it's so deeply conditioned that that's really tough for people to mentalize and process.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like, you want to be good.
Right.
Right. You don't want to be bad. Like it's so black and white, right? It's so like easy for us to choose, so to speak. And that's why I think having more systemic support for our healing would make a lot of our experiences easier and more willing for us to go through them, right? To do our healings, to learn these lessons, if we had access, if more of us had access to different kinds of support and healing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the heart. I think that's also like a rub in this, you know, like how do we fix this? How do we learn how to create our reality? It's like, who's teaching that, right? Besides us, but like who's sort of like, you know, awakening people up to this. And, you know, we'll sit here all day while you like throw your fists at us because we want you to learn this, you know, we want you to realize it. Because when you do, it's like a golden ticket, you know?
Oh, it's so freeing.
Yeah. And that's the craziest thing. It's like, oh, wow. You know, because then anytime something happens, you can be like, what is the story I'm telling myself? Why am I stirring this up? What can I learn from it? And like, you can just process through it so quickly and get back to your happy, joyous, flowy state, you know? But like, these things are going to come, and it's like, how do you navigate them with grace? So,
yeah. And then I think going back to the people who you say, quote unquote, like can't handle it.
Yeah.
I think they've just been so conditioned to what their limitations are.
Yeah.
Or it's like they're trying to ride this societal wave of handling it, when like create a new approach. How would you handle something like this? Like, how is it best for you to navigate through these emotional waters? Like, there's also this theory, like talk therapy, I feel like is so, I think it's good for some things.
Yeah.
But I think it is so like clinical, and like the word that's coming to me is like sterilized. Like it's just not a path for healing, for sustainability. Like I feel like you have to keep going back and back and back and back and talking it out and you're not actually like doing anything.
Yeah.
And it's such like, well, now it's socially acceptable to go to talk therapy.
Yeah.
But
Finally.
like, right. But like psyche, like, nah, that shit's too weird.
Don't worry.
It's not like socially acceptable yet to like do the intuitive healing and stuff. But I think I think we'll get there.
I feel like maybe in certain circles or areas, it's more and more coming that way. And
Yeah.
I see a lot of people, which I really love, doing the layered approach, right? They have a talk therapist and they have some psych K and some energy work, and they
Yeah.
go into their records and talk to their guides and, right? And sometimes you feel like, oh my God, so many things, but it's like, you guys, this is a journey. Being human, it's a lot. So like having that support around you, calling in your support team and your physical support team and your spiritual support team, that's so necessary to, I think, support you in understanding creating your reality.
Yeah.
Because then kind of like the first time I was there, I was like, what? It's all up to me. Here I am with my little reins, like looking around the landscape, like, oh shit. But it's like, no, you can call in guides, you can call in protection, you can do so many other things to help you create the reality you want,
Yeah. And I think like
Yeah.
within the container, like people also need containers for it to be safe to explore these things. And if you're
Yeah.
like, I'm not anti talk therapy, like I'm not, I'm really not. I
Don't
think
DM us.
if right. But I think if you're a person who processes things by talking, like me, your G spot projector, um, then I think it's good for you because like talking it out will give you a greater awareness of self. But if talking is not your thing, like then I don't know if it's necessarily going to be helpful for you. But there are other avenues what we're getting at.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I think, like creating that reality, like, how do you think you create the good and the bad in your reality? Like, what's something good you're creating right now and something maybe not so good?
I did I have a retemplating meditation, which we can talk
Oh.
about. It helps you hop timelines. And
Ooh.
I'm testing it out because I am going to like create a manifestation mini course. It's like 2 modules just to help you manifest. But this is one of the things in them. And it helps you like align with the timeline that you want to. Because the key to manifestation is realizing that all possibilities, all realities, all futures already exist. So it like taps you into that reality. It like plugs you in so that
Mm-hmm.
that's your trajectory.
I love it.
And I feel like the most powerful manifestors have figured that out. Like, oh, it already exists. I'm just going to like plug my energy into it and
Yeah.
go along that route. So I did that this morning for us to cultivate a beautiful, loving, engaged audience. And it felt really nice. So that's the reality I'm creating right now.
I love that.
And then I'd say one of the more challenging things I'm figuring out right now with
Yeah.
my reality is the transition away from nursing into my
Mm.
own thing full time. It's just been like a prolonged process and it's challenged me a lot, especially last year when all of my hours got cut. It really forced me to face what are the limitations I feel about money and money coming in and sustainability with a career and why am I still choosing this? Like, if you don't like something that's in your reality, ask yourself why you're still choosing it.
Ooh, snap.
Snaps.
Yeah. Natalie delivers it like that. She's like, if you don't like it, ask why you're attracting
Mm,
it.
it's
And
your
see, I
fault.
think sometimes I know that's what it feels like, right?
I
I think
know.
that's like the undercurrent of like, it's your fault. But it's like, if you can get over even where that comes from, right?
Uh-huh.
How, what is that bringing up that somebody gives you a different perspective or maybe turns the responsibility or accountability back to you? How does that make you feel, especially about your own life, right?
There's probably a lot of conditioning there about like you being the creator of your reality. And I'll tell you, one of the big shifts that I do, and I do it for pretty much everybody, is
Yeah.
like when you shift away from a quote unquote negative conditioning, for example, for creating your reality, like I am a victim. A lot of people are operating from victim mindset because that's so ingrained in our conditioning that like life happens to us.
Yeah.
Life is hard. You pay taxes and then you die. Like that's all just conditioning. That's conditioning. And if you choose to believe that, that will be your reality. But shifting people into I am a creator and
Yeah.
dropping that victim mindset is just, it's incredible. It's incredible.
I freaking love that. Victim versus creator.
Yeah.
And I think for me, especially why I'm so concerned about like the kids who are coming in and why I want everybody who's listening who wants to have babies to like clear your shit out is so that we don't condition them like this anymore, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is the generation that's stopping stuff. So the more that we can be aware of our own stuff and not pass it on to our kids, they're going to get their own stuff. They're
They
going to call
are.
their own stuff, you know?
They
So
are. That's what they're going to be here for.
getting to that. But the request I keep getting from them is keep elevating yourselves, right? Keep moving into this higher consciousness. Like it's worth it, you know?
Oh, it's so worth it. And if you
Yeah.
feel like there are still things in your life that happen to you, then there's probably a part of you that's just been conditioned to be a victim.
Yeah.
It's not anything bad, it's not anything negative. It's just something that if it's in your conscious awareness, it might be worth taking a look at.
Yeah. And like maybe we can chat about like conditioning a bit. Like, how does that, to me, that's just like that repeat, right? Like you're in the soup, you know, you kind of always hear it. It's always been a part of your reality that like money is an issue or we can't do this, or just those constant phrases that, you know, your parents tell you that after a while, you're kind of like, looks like we can't afford nice things, you know, like looks like I can't have these things. So it's like, how else does conditioning happen though? I mean, there's societal condition, right? Our
Hmm.
families. Who
Hmm.
else conditions us?
Well, TV shows are called programming. It
Oh,
puts you in a meditative mindset. So, like, watch what you're watching on TV because you're absorbing it. And it all really stems from that old saying that kids are sponges. And this is what
mm,
that saying means. Like,
yeah.
they are absorbing energetically. You, as a child,
Yeah.
if you're doing inner child work, what did you absorb? Because
Ooh,
they're not conditioned to view things as good or bad. They're just conditioned to absorb what is. So they're absorbing marriages, they're absorbing relationships, they're absorbing money conditioning. However, money was for you growing up. Was it a means of control? Was it manipulation? Was it scarce? Was it abundant? Like, that's all where your conditioning comes from. And that's what you're calling in your adult life if if you leave it unchecked.
ooh, that kind of made me sad thinking about
Inner
what little
child.
little Jessica's inner child has absorbed. I'm like, I just got this image of her like, oh fuck.
Why do you think it's sad?
Well, just like how much I took in of the experiences that weren't so pleasant,
But
you
why does
know?
that have to be sad? Those experiences, they just were.
Yeah. Because it was sad to see. It's, I guess, as a little child, it's like like what my little inner child is saying is like does not compute, you know, like hey, I thought I had this like family and it was all going to be like great and amazing and like y'all are fighting and what is this about? And so I think just this feeling of like what I thought and envisioned and what I wanted my family to be like versus like what I was actually experiencing.
Oh, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How does a child know what a family is supposed to be and look and feel like?
I think I have that version now as I look back at my family and the conditioning and the experiences that I had and how that affected me. I think like I wonder maybe like what would it be like to have a different type of family or a different type of experience? You don't ever wonder that? Like what if I was in a different experience, how would this affect my life?
Oh, I always think about that. But I know that like the way that things play out were like exactly the way that they were supposed to. And like kids don't know that anything they're going through is different or good or bad. They absorb that from their parents or their primary caregivers or the environment that they're in. They don't know.
So maybe that's something that I still need to shift because I don't feel neutral about it. I still feel a little sad.
You're grieving
Yeah.
because societal conditioning tells you it was supposed to be one way and it wasn't.
Yeah, fuck you, society. Where's
Fuck
my happy
you.
fucking family?
But that's exactly like what we're talking on this podcast about. It's like it's supposed to be weird. It's
Yeah.
not supposed to be normal.
It's definitely not supposed to be like TV. And I probably watched way too many fucking princess movies. And so clearly expected my relationships to be like that. Like,
Obviously.
first of all, if you ever watch people have sex on TV, it's not like real life sex, okay? They're just like, hi, ready to go. And then it's over and it's done. And, you know, and you're just like, so the first time I remember like having sex, I was like, it's going to be like that, right? No,
No.
no. But yeah, now I'm going to really think about my Netflix queue and what I'm watching.
Yeah, because you're absorbing it.
I'm kind of laughing at the things that I'm watching. I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, tell me, please tell. I watched that Sex Life show on Netflix.
Yeah.
Are you watching it? Is that what you're talking about?
I've totally binged that for sure.
Yeah, we watched it. Okay, it only has like 20% or something on like Rotten Tomatoes or whatever the Netflix like rating system is. Like it's not good. But I think it raises a really good question about like she feels trapped in her reality, but it's her own doing. It's her own
Yeah.
doing. You chose this.
Yeah.
And you can always choose differently if you don't like it.
Well, and see that, okay. Okay. So that's an interesting point, right? I think why people maybe struggle with making those choices, right? So this lady, she's got like a husband and kids now and a house and the suburbs, yada, yada, yada. It's like, oh, to actually like go towards this hot man who makes me feel like alive in so many ways, I have to like, unplug all this stuff and become divorced and go every other weekend with my kids. Blah, 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 blah. And so it's like they don't want to do that work to actually get to the reality they want.
Yeah.
Is that conditioning that's going to be hard and difficult? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
That's
oh, I can't do that.
All limiting conditioning. Like the show was okay, but it was very cringy to watch her be a victim.
Yeah. Oh, don't you want to watch TV with Natalie?
Yeah, it's so fun. I won't ruin it for you at all.
Victim mentality.
What a victim.
Creating her reality.
If they would just communicate. Yeah.
She needs to clear that subconscious belief. It's like the Mystery Science Theater 3000, but
oh my God, I love that. I thought that was a figment of my imagination. Let us know if you guys remember. Right?
Mystery
like,
Science Theater.
In the theater, they're all sitting and like commenting. Oh my God, I thought that was like a fever dream. I didn't know that actually happened.
I think he's still going. I think my husband watches it. So I don't know if it's on YouTube or one of the
I'm gonna find it. That's really funny.
Yes, it's a good one. Okay, so we've chatted about realities, creating your realities, the good and bads of realities, a little bit about judging. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Other people's realities.
Yeah.
One of my favorite cards is the buffalo card in my animal spirit deck. And the message there is you have to allow somebody to walk their pathway, even if it makes you sad, right?
Yeah.
Of like, I feel like I have a lot of judgment.
Yeah.
I feel like, that good, bad, I can definitely feel that conditioning. So is that like a sign if I'm getting judgy? That's probably my conditioning.
If you have an emotional response to something, or you judge someone for anything, then yeah, there is a part of that that's about you, an unintegrated aspect of self somehow.
I'm like, do I not have an emotional response to things? I'm like, most things I do. Okay.
Yeah, that's judgment. Judgment is just conditioning. We're so conditioned to fit into these like roles and whatever that our society has set up for us to kind of fold into. And I heard something recently that like the education system, the current one that we have, was created, post-war, and it was to basically pump out the ideal worker, not the individual. So there's a lot of conditioning as we go through school, and I've heard people call schooling just indoctrination.
Yeah.
Because you're a child and you're put in these environments by adults with all of these standardized things you're supposed to learn, but that doesn't make it the truth. That's just what they want you to learn in order to fall and be a good worker.
Damn, mic drop.
Mic drop.
Because I don't want my kids to go to those schools.
I don't either. I am gonna do something alternate. And like as I'm saying that, like I can feel them coming in and being like, yeah, we don't want that. Did you like that? We don't want that. Like
but it's like, that's what Natalie and I got to get cracking on. We got to create things for these kiddos to go and learn and do because I mean, I've also heard it called like the school to prison pipeline, right?
Oh, for BIPOC. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. The training, the regulations, even the food, right? It's all very,
I have square pizza though. I can get on board with it. Did anybody else have milk in bags? My wife has no idea what I'm talking about, but I had bagged milk. It was like a little square. It was in a plastic bag. Like, yeah, it was a clear bag and you put a straw through the middle of it. Also, did you ever get the grapefruit in school just to eat the sugar packet? Because I did.
No, but like, is this milk like a Capri Sun? Like, can it sit down,
It's
or is it just like
like
a blob?
flat square. Yeah, like a, I don't know, like a love sack. Like that's what it looks like. And you put a straw through it. If anybody else went to elementary school in South Texas, let me know if that's what you had.
That is hilarious. The thing that I remember from school lunches, because I was a weirdo kid and didn't get to have school lunches, my mom made them, and all I wanted was school lunches. But every once in a while, she'd let me have them, and they had these things called taco boats.
What
Okay.
is that?
It's a taco boat shell. It's a
Mm-hmm.
shell made out of taco
Mm-hmm.
shell,
Okay.
well, like tortilla.
Got it. It's a
And
shell.
then you have all the stuff inside, your cheese and your meat, whatever. And then you put your salad and your hot sauce on top. And it's like this big open faced taco, but it was a taco boat. Like as a kid, if you
So
take
cool.
like two words and combine them and it becomes a food, it's like, come on. And so
into
it wasn't good. It was
No.
disgusting.
Yes.
But I just wanted to be like everybody else, eating the taco boat, not eating my weird sandwiches and whole wheat bread that my mother made lovingly with her hands.
That's exactly, and mic drop, that's what school wants you to do. They want you to be like everybody else.
I conformed.
I think we've all conformed at one point or another because like as kids, you just don't realize that you have a choice not to.
Well, and it feels good to be a part of the group, right? I think it's that like base stem, of your brain of like, you just want to belong because it's like that safety. You don't want to be on the outside. But I was definitely still on the outside while trying to belong.
I was on the outside. Yes, I understand the outside.
Oh.
Was it you that I was telling about like how weird I was as a kid?
No,
Yeah, we were talking about it. Yeah, that I had like these velvet bell bottoms that I wore almost every day, and then my favorite shirt was a material not too far from tinfoil.
Like a lame or something.
I don't know what it was, but it was shiny. And I would frame my face with butterfly clips.
I mean, if you can find a picture of little Natalie in this outfit, we should put it on Instagram.
I don't
know
know.
Such thing as normal pod.
Yeah, I'll find one. I'll talk to my mom about it. I don't know if she's like blacked those years out because there were like a good 7-year span where I also refused to wear denim. So,
ooh, yeah, there's a lot of anti-denim people. Yeah,
I think it was too constricting.
I need more freedom to run around.
I didn't like how constricting it was. Weird.
I mean, I did a lot of like color blocking, like pink shirt, blue shorts, one pink sock, one blue sock, and I rolled them down and layered them.
Cute.
And had my hair with the pigtails and the pink and the blue, like very much into that, and I had to skip it and I would go out and do that kind of stuff, and lots of jump roping, lots of playing, lots of just looking really cute, but just also like seeing things as I'm a kid.
Also saw dead people.
My parents would come out and be like, who are you talking to? I'd be like, Amy. And they're like, oh, is that your imaginary friend? And I was like, she's real, and so
real to me.
I think the other part that people don't realize is there's the non-ordinary reality. And there's a whole other, if you want to do spirit work, if you already do spirit work, I'm sure you know this, but like you have to have the same levels of boundaries, clearing your traumas, because those show up in the non-ordinary world, right? If you still don't have the way of understanding, if you're still a victim mode and you go in and do shamanic journey, you're still going to show up in that way. You're still going to experience things in that way. So it's also like prudent, love that word, to like do your work. So when you do your spirit work and you're connecting with non-ordinary beings and you're talking to crystals and fairies and ghosts and everything, you still have that understanding that you're creating your reality and that you're talking to these people or helping them for a reason, people in these realities, like especially if like you're like, oh, why do I like always buy a house with ghosts in it? I don't know,
because you're like calling it in for some reason.
Maybe you have to like help them out. Maybe you don't know about that yet, but I do that a lot too with clients. I'm just like, you're going to do this psychic stuff. It's coming for you. And everybody's like, when? And I just say, when you're ready to receive it. Right. So that's the other thing. It's like, even if you kind of have a vision of your future or you hear things from psychics or other people, like you're still having to create that reality and create your openness to accept working with the non-ordinary world or spirits or guides or anything like that.
Talk about conditioning around that, around spirituality and spiritualism.
Oh my God.
There's so much ingrained conditioning that's been carried through like generations of when people couldn't understand it, so they shunned it, or they, you know, criminalized.
Yeah, I was just gonna say my phrase again. You're a witch. You're a
Yeah,
witch.
you're a witch.
But it's true. It's like that's where you start to see the more like ancestral conditioning or the past life conditioning. You have these weird fears and these weird things. And it's like, if you can't place them in this life to any trauma or any experiences, I like say, like, look at your past lives and maybe understand why you have these both weird, crazy fears and also like strange, lovely attractions. Like I like love Japan, definitely lived a life there.
Yeah.
Want to go there so bad, so hardcore, like, because it's going to feel like home. And so like I'm going to probably maybe create that reality to go there in this lifetime to like see what my spirit has been calling. It's also calling me to a lot of different places lately. It really wants me to travel.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel good, life is all about how you feel.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. How do you experience the non-ordinary world, the
I
spirits and the ghosts and all that?
I feel like we talked about this just
Your reality.
yeah, I feel like we talked about this just a little bit in like the first episode, but like I don't remember having imaginary friends. I also had brothers and they were kind of, occupying of my time. So I don't remember having imaginary friends or anything like that, but when I was like 27 or something, and then my yard filled with crows and like my spirit guide made himself known and like starting on this intuitive journey, it's been a real deconditioning process for me to tap into these gifts that I already have that like you as a listener already have.
Yeah.
Like what I do, what Jess does is not unattainable for you. It's
Nope.
not. Everybody has this. Everybody can do this. It's just how open you are to it and if you like actively work on it. So I'd say when I started down this intuitive path and I got into cards and I got into crystals and it started like opening me up more and more, and they're really, I grieved a bit of an ego death, realizing like how sheltered I had become, and I'd done it to myself, like how much I had closed myself off to my intuitive gifts, or like I was told that it wasn't real, or I was told that, oh, that's just a feeling, like you're just feeling that, or not even having my feelings validated as a kid maybe shut you down. It just shuts you down from being open to experiencing all that is in the wide spectrum of the non-ordinary.
Yeah.
So like diving into this work and actively choosing to like go to a psyche facilitator workshop, to buy that course on cards, to sit down and meditate in the morning, like choosing those things, the universe came in to support me and being like, okay, well, let's open you up more to your gifts. And like, here, these are these clients that are going to open you up more to your gifts. And so like, if you want to tap into the non-ordinary realities, choose it.
Do it.
Do it.
It's so fun.
It's so fun.
And I think to your point, like, yeah, you can access as much or as little as you want.
It's all up to you. Yeah, all up to you.
Were you going to say something?
I don't remember.
I got this little hit as you were talking. Like my guide said that like, a lot of that conditioning around the spirit stuff happens young for kids because they're still connected to the spirit world. They can still visit it, access it, and see things. And so like, they just kind of showed me an image. If like a little kid says something and you're like scared as a mom or a dad and just be like, oh my God, what? Like that starts that initial conditioning. Like, well, I don't want to scare my caretaker. I don't want them to like freak out because they can also feel your energy. And so like, I don't know. I've been saying to parents, if they have like little kids, like 2, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, ask them like where they came from.
Oh, I love doing
life was like before. Ask them what they see. If they tell you that they see things, like be like, cool, tell me more about that. What does it look like? Can you draw it? That kind of stuff. Because the more that we allow them and trust them and have access to these guides, I really feel like we're setting ourselves up for this more aligned, higher consciousness future.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was saying. Like kids just experience what is. They like all of the rest is conditioning.
Yeah. Oh, I love kids so much.
I know, they're so fun. I didn't used to love children, but I feel like I'm warming up to them.
I didn't either. I was like, I remember like a friend had a baby at work and I was like the person, like when I held the baby, it just started crying. I was like, oh, fuck. And like, of course, what does that say? Like, oh, she's not maternal and she doesn't. And I was like,
right.
fuck, I don't know, this kid doesn't know me. And that's why
Right.
it's crying. And there's like nothing to do with me, but like, what are the millions of things I said to myself just in that little moment of like, oh, if I hold a baby, I should just be maternal because I'm a woman and blah. So I just, yeah, I mean, I probably like condition myself too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Or I like repeat the conditioning, so to speak.
Thank you to that crying baby to bring that to your conscious awareness. That was your contract.
Yeah. And I think it's hard when you don't have the awareness. But if I went
Yeah.
back in my life and looked at those moments, I could apply learnings to them. And Spirit's been saying that a lot to me lately. Like people need to go back and look at where they've been. You know,
Yes.
look at where you've been, because if you want to jump a timeline, if you want to progress, if you want to move, you have to like remember where you've been, right? You have to remember that energy and all the things that you've accomplished, right? So that you realize you can create new things, you can move, things have changed.
Yeah. Be your own
Yeah.
expander.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about timelines for a sec.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could spend a whole episode talking about timelines,
Okay.
but I think we should just touch on them because we're going to talk about them. I think so. Timelines are, oh God, they're realities. They're different realities that you can tap into. You're currently on a timeline. There are more coming for you. And I think maybe the concept to grasp if you're going to start to work with timelines is understanding that time is not linear. Like we've been conditioned to believe that it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, timelines in your experience, Jess, how would you describe what a timeline is?
Yeah. So it literally shows up like a timeline. Like, like if in the history, like in 1987, this happened and da, da, da. And I'll see it when people start talking about something. If like something's going on in your life, it'll like boop pop up. I wish I could like describe how I experience things, but literally this is the experience and the energetics. Imagine something just like popped up in front of you. That's what it feels like for me. Even though I don't actually see things, I see it, right?
Yeah.
And then I see like these like lines, right? Like almost like different like lines. And I'm like, oh, this is short on your timeline, this is long on your timeline. Like I'll see colors or energy, I'll see, sort of like shapes or things. And so you kind of get a feel for like what timeline are you on? What are you working with? Is this something that's just going to be on your timeline forever? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the grief from losing a baby, right? It just might be there forever. You might just always work with that grief, right? You might always be a friend to her. She might always kind of bring things up for you as you move through things. You might not visit her all the time. It might not be so resonant, but sometimes, certain things just stay for certain people, not for everyone, right? And I feel like sometimes, when I look at like moving timelines or jumping timelines, what I also see is like there's all these other people's timelines crisscross with yours and influencing yours. And so there's a lot of just, sometimes like, oh, why isn't it happening? Well, it's like, well, because 4 other people's timelines have to converge and then that can happen.
Yeah.
It's like if you're dependent on another person for the progression of a certain thing on your timeline, like a baby, right?
Right. Contracts.
But it just, yeah, it's always like, it looks like, I guess how it shows up to me, my guys are just saying like, so that I can understand this is what a timeline looks like. But it really is just a bunch of different things that you're experiencing. And like what I've been seeing lately, which is so freaking funny, it's like the baby showed me this. It's like a menu and you're like checking things and picking things and like, what do you want to experience? And so those things are added at points in your timeline, or you will attach certain lessons to other certain things so that you accomplish A and B before you have C. So, like you really do structure out your life. It's not like so predestined as like people think. It's not so much like that, but it definitely has, if you look at like astrology, like you've definitely picked a flavor. You've definitely picked some areas to work on. You've definitely picked, some places to be where you've, incarnated to work with. So there's definitely like, flavors to that.
Different aspects of it, yeah, to timelines.
I feel like something is crazy. There's like people like shouting outside. I'm like, what's going on at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning, people?
Oh, nothing I want to know about.
No. Okay. Whew. What's going on in their timeline?
Oh, God.
What are they creating? What about you? How do you experience timelines?
I didn't really start working with timelines until I started, dabbling in manifestation. And then they became aware because like last year when we got pregnant, actually we got pregnant around this time last year. It's been a year. And then we miscarried in September, I think. But I was so frustrated. And then again, we tried to conceive earlier this year. I don't like the word try. We attempted conception earlier this year. We did it. We didn't try. We did it.
Yeah.
And then it didn't happen because I had this, like, I had been told a timeline that like, oh, it's going to happen. They want to come through as a Virgo, or they want to come through as a Sagittarius, like in December. And then we didn't get pregnant and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And it turns out, like, you know, like in Mario Kart or whatever, on those racing games where you have to go around the lap and hit the checkpoints.
Yeah.
Like, I hadn't hit my checkpoint that I was like contracted to do before becoming a mother. Like, I have always said, and I don't know why, that like I can't be a parent and be a nurse. I can, for me, for my soul, I don't want that. And I've always known that, but I still tried to conceive while not out of nursing yet. So like, yes, the timeline I'm on, it does lead to motherhood, but it's like these other events have to line up for that timeline to sort of like come to fruition. Like, I think I have to step out of nursing, like, to actually do it.
I mean, I think we know this. What is got me curious is like, why did you try even though you knew? Or why did you make attempts even though you knew? Because we do that a lot, right? We have this guidance, we have these knowings, and we're like, I'll just go ahead. Maybe maybe it's wrong. Maybe we can like surpass the timeline, because timelines can change. They can change. I think that's maybe part of it. Like, we have a knowing, but also like maybe there's something more in that, or maybe it was just a super confirmation for you. Like, yep, not going to happen.
I think it was a real confirmation for me, but also like, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it.
I'll show you.
I'm going to do it. And then I got pregnant. So I was like, yeah. It worked.
Take that, universe.
I feel like that's what I did, but I also think I had to go through the miscarriage. Obviously, like, it led to meeting you, and it led to me talking about it and talking to other people about it, and you know, properly processing that trauma. Like, bleeding for 14 days it's traumatic. It, like, I had no idea what was going on. It was terrifying, wildly anemic. Nobody tells you about the headaches, but that it was terrible. So being able to properly process that trauma, like, now I have an extra tool in my toolbox that I can help people who have gone through the same, like, properly process that so it doesn't repeat itself.
And I send so many people to you who have experienced a miscarriage and then want to have a baby, because that just creates for a lot of people this block, this weight, this negative voice in their heads about how broken and bad and awful they are. And it's like, the babies are like, Jess, like, help my mom out here. Like, she got to clear that stuff out. And I say that a lot, but it's like, you know, it's like, you want to create this reality that your babies are coming into. And if there's worry and fear and, oh my gosh, and they are being born into that. Some of them can still come through, but some of them can't, you know, it's too intense.
Yeah. And I think that's why we did the Redesigning Pregnancy series that we did earlier this year together, because we wanted to expand people who wanted to be mothers, or gestational parents, people who wanted to be gestational parents. We wanted to expand their mind that it doesn't have to be a hard, nauseous, painful, clinical experience. Like, we're also conditioned to believe, like, you creating your reality, you can change that.
Yeah.
And like, that's what we did in the series. We helped them figure out how to change it.
It was awesome. And we're going to check in with them in September and see how everyone is doing.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. But timelines. What else is there to say about timelines?
Oh, I think the other thing that's kind of trippy with healing is that you can heal up the timeline and you can heal forward in the timeline. Even if there's maybe no future, like you said, which is kind of like, that's got me interested. So like, when you heal yourself, the healing goes all the way up the line. So when I talk to ancestors, a lot of their encouragement for people like accomplishing a goal or moving through something, or, you know, leaving that, you know, deadbeat husband kind of a thing, it's because they couldn't do it in their lifetime. It was too hard to, even though they wanted to, they sort of passed on that energy to you to be like, hey, let's get that voice in our family. Let's get that energy, because then as you pass it on to your children and future generations, like they become this like better version of the whole entire energy of the family. And I think like families have things to work through, because let's see what my guides want to say about that, because it's like the people that we choose to kind of like incarnate with and work with and relate with, and then we build lots of karma and relationships with them, and so we have to like keep working through our timelines to work through them and heal them and kind of understand them. So we have lots of lifetimes to work them. So it's like the outer planets in astrology. Like these are like big things that might maybe working through generations or genders or races or religions or cultures, things like that we kind of work through. But I guess what I've been experiencing is like when you heal it for yourself, like your mother might act differently to you and your grandmother and that kind of stuff. And even though these people aren't still here incarnate, their energy is still within you and your soul family. And so they receive the benefits, is what they're kind of showing me. So that when we all go back home together and then reincarnate together, we've all received the loving wisdom, guidance, and learnings from all of our families, right? Just like you're maybe influenced or inspired by your grandparents or their work ethic or what they did, it's like that. You can maybe like on the positive side, you can feel that, but on the harder negative healing side, it's the same way. And then the future, I just think like, even though we're in this present moment, we're creating our future and we're envisioning it. And so if we have a healthy, healed body, then what we think about can create a much better aligned future without a lot of this conditioning.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to like describe it, because I get it that people are like, how does that really work? But I guess the best way to say it is like your relatives and your ancestors are still with you, even though they're not incarnate. And they will still benefit from your actions here on earth.
Yeah, it's akin to healing generational cycles of trauma. Like that's same thing.
Yeah.
Well, great. I love it. We love timelines. We love creating your reality. We love deconditioning.
Yes.
Let us know if you have any questions about timelines. We'll be bringing them up frequently because we both work with them in the work that we do and with you, and love to answer your questions if you have any.
Yeah. And if you have ideas for topics about things that are weird or not so normal in your life that you're interested in and want us to explore, let us know. Shoot us a little email at nosuchthingasnormalpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we launched a Facebook group. There's not much going on in there right now, but it's there. Jess, where can they find it?
Oh, geez.
Pop quiz.
OMG. I have to look it up. Facebook, what are you doing? Okay, so we gave us a cute name. It's called No Such Thing as Normal Podcast Weirdos.
Yes.
So if you are a weirdo, come there. I don't have a fancy Facebook like URL yet, but look for that. No Such Thing as Normal Podcast Weirdos.
Yeah, request to join.
We're going to reclaim that term. Yeah, right now there's no members, so you could be the first.
I'm a member.
Oh, there's two members, Natalie and myself.
Yeah,
we're gonna be hanging out.
Yeah, maybe we'll do some lives in there. We'll just connect with you guys. And also be sure to listen to the next coming episodes, because Jess and I are putting together a little giveaway.
Yes, we're doing like an official launch.
Yeah.
And I went shopping for presents this weekend. So fun.
Excited. Oh, that's gonna be so fun. I'm really excited. Okay, well, if you like this episode, if you like talking about timelines and all the weird and woo with us, please be sure again to rate and review. It really just helps us out. It spreads our podcast to more people, which we really hope to do in the future, have a larger audience, everybody unleashing their weird and questioning their realities. So yeah, rate and review, and then hit us up on Instagram at No Such Thing as Normal Pod.
Yeah, we have like 50 followers already. Go us.
Go us. Look at
that. Hey, everyone.
Okay, well, let us know what you'd like us to talk about in the future, and then you'll hear us next week.
And we're out.